All right, everyone, let's talk about some reasons why your level 60 champions might not be as strong as you think they are. Now, this is a really big mistake that a lot of newer players make. I know that my first few level 60 champions definitely weren't as strong as I thought they were. That's why I wanted to go through this list of things that might help you make your level 60 champions stronger than they currently are right now. So with that being said, let's jump into number one, without a doubt going to be the absolute most important thing. I honestly think it's probably more important than the base champion themselves. That is actually going to be the gear. Now, gear is huge in Raid Shadow Legends. The difference between a really good champion with really bad gear versus a really good champion with really good gear is going to be night and day. So having bad gear, and that's going to be a combination of the stats, maybe not really good set bonuses, just everything. Maybe your gear isn't leveled up, or it's just got a bunch of really bad substats. Maybe it's just completely the wrong stats for the champion to begin with. Weak gear is going to really be night and day, the difference between having a bad champion versus a good one. So before you actually work on leveling up your gear and spending a bunch of resources, make sure that you learn your champion though. So I'm going to get more into detail on some other things that are going to make your champions weaker than they should be, but gear is definitely going to be the biggest thing. Now, I said this, don't just level up your gear all to plus 16 right away, because you want to make sure that you're actually using the right gear for the champions that you have at level 60. And I'm going to get into more detail on that in this video, but definitely make sure that you guys work on your gear. It's huge. I know we haven't had an artifact enhancement event in a while, which is a bit frustrating for me considering how much silver I'm holding, but don't neglect your gear, and that includes your jewelry. Jewelry is another really big thing. When you get a champion to level 60, you have the option to ascend it to 6 stars. So not only are you going to get the extra power from those 10 extra levels from 50 to 60, but you're also going to unlock the necklace and the banner slot. Definitely don't neglect the jewelry. It's very, very important, and it's also going to add a lot of power to your champions. I know I'm still using a 3-star necklace on Sir Nicholas. I don't want to talk about it. I'm working on getting other gear to plus 16. I've just been waiting for the artifact enhancement events that never seem to be coming around anymore. But gear is huge, so definitely make sure that you focus on that. And as we get into some of the other things, you guys will kind of understand what gear you actually want to be working on for the champions that you have taken to level 60. So number 2 is going to be the stat skill mismatch. This is a mistake that I ended up making. I've read a few comments on my YouTube channel, and I know that this is a mistake that other people have made, and I want to talk about what I did with Sir Nicholas. And another reason why you don't just want to power through all your gear to plus 16 is because if you end up making this mistake, your champion is going to be way weaker than it should be. Now, Sir Nicholas, if we go back, you'll see that he is an HP-based champion. So what I ended up doing when I first geared up my Sir Nicholas is I didn't really understand how this worked. I didn't know what HP based meant. When you go to the skills, damage based on HP, I didn't really understand this very well. So I just geared up based on what I thought were going to be the best stats. I wanted him to do a lot of damage, so I got a lot of attack on his gear. I still had a decent amount of HP, but I didn't really realize how important it was for Sir Nicholas. Very important for you to understand what is actually going to scale with your champion and make it stronger. Now, an HP-based champion is going to be very, very strong because not only is HP going to end up giving you more survivability, but the actual damage that the champion does is going to be based on HP as well. And it scales way better than just stacking a bunch of attack on Sir Nicholas. Yes, attack will still increase your damage, but you're definitely going to want to go down the route of getting HP instead of a bunch of attack. Is not only is it going to give you more survivability, but you're going to realize that it's just going to scale a lot better overall. So really big mistake, and if you just put a bunch of gear with the wrong mismatched stats on a champion, it's going to be way weaker than it should be. Also, very importantly, don't just look at one of these things. Like, you'll see Sir Nicholas is legendary right below it, HP. That doesn't mean that all of his skills are going to scale off of HP. You want to take a look at every single skill individually. There will be some champions that say HP, and then you'll look at their skills, and they will scale off of defense, or they'll scale off of defense and HP, or something along those lines. Also, don't just look at the first skill where it says damage based on HP and assume that all the skills are going to also scale off of HP. Every single skill is going to be different, so you definitely want to take some time, especially after investing the resources and taking a champion to level 60. You want to take the time to kind of understand what that champion is going to be about, what the skills are going to do, what they're going to scale off of, and just kind of learn what kind of gear you're going to need. Because even though gear was the first tip that I ended up making, this is why I said don't just start leveling up all your gear right now. It's because you might end up putting a bunch of resources into leveling up a bunch of gear for a level 60 champion, but then realize that that wasn't even really the right gear to use for that champion to begin with. So huge mistake that I made with Sir Nicholas, just as a personal example. I know other people have done the same, and ever since I ended up switching to gear that has way more HP on it as the main focus, the power level of my Sir Nicholas has gone up tremendously. He does way more damage now. He's overall way stronger than he was when I just had the wrong gear with too much attack on it instead. So that's going to end up being number 2. Now, number 3 is another really big one. Why you definitely want to take the time to just go through and learn the champions that you are working on is specific stats are going to be required in order to gain the full benefit of skills. Now, I'm going to use Vrask as an example. I've used him as an example before, but he's just super perfect for what I'm talking about here. Is if you end up going to the skills, you definitely want to read over every skill of your champions very carefully, because it takes some time to learn what is actually going to make that champion good. Not every champion is just going to be a direct damage dealer. Not every champion is going to be support or utility. A lot of champions have something pretty particular that is going to make them unique and special, and why you might want to be working on that champion to begin with. Vrask is a great example because the reason that he is so good is not because he's an HP based champion and he's going to do a lot of damage. His damage skills are pretty awful, actually. He's going to do some of the weakest damage among any champions in the game. The reason why he's good is going to be because of this cannibalism passive, and it's a very specific skill that requires very specific things from your gear in order to get the full benefit of the skill. So as you can see, cannibalism passive level 1 heals all allies by 10% of his max HP. So that's the first component of the skill right there. So Vrask is an HP based champion, and yes, his damage dealing skills will do more damage from HP, but the reason why he's so good is because of this passive. And the more HP that Vrask is going to have, the more that this passive is going to heal your entire team. Not only that, but the second part of the skill also very important. Heals all allies by 10% of his max HP when he inflicts a critical hit. Very, very important, because if you don't have 100% crit right now, he's not going to be able to use his third skill. He's going to miss out on a heal, and that could have major, major implications on a battle. You could end up just completely losing the battle if he misses out this heal. So certain skills are going to require very specific things. Vrask, as an example, you want to gear him with as much HP as possible. You want 100% crit rate so he doesn't miss out on that passive, and every champion is going to be a bit different. So I just used Vrask as an example because he works so well, but this is why you definitely want to take the time to kind of learn the skills of your champion, learn what they are doing, what roles they are filling, and what they are going to be contributing to your team, so that you don't end up completely gearing and building out a champion for something much differently than they were actually intended to do in the first place. So that is going to end up being number 3. Number 4, this is another big one, and this is why I like to recommend certain champions like Kale as great examples of your first champions to take to level 60, is because another really big mistake, especially that newer players make, is they'll take a champion that is meant for very specific roles to level 60, and then they'll try using that champion in everything because it's the only level 60 champion that they might have. And they feel like, okay, well, if it's the only level 60 champion I have, I might as well just use it everywhere. Then they realize that they are still going to be really weak in certain aspects of the game. So the example I have here up on the screen is Nizana for the clan boss. I did this for a while. I actually used Nizana for the clan boss because she was one of my first level 60 champions. And I thought to myself, man, she's really bad. She's not good at all. What a terrible champion. And I was wrong. Now, Nizana is definitely not a terrible champion. Sure, she might not be the best champion in the game, but she's going to be really good for certain aspects of the game. She's going to have a certain role to fill, and because she has an area of effect auto attack, she has an ally protection buff, and she also has a decrease attack debuff, she's going to be really good in certain places like the spider or any kind of location where you're going to need to kill multiple monsters at once. Now, the clan boss is not going to be like that. You don't really gain any of the benefit from the AoE auto attack. You don't really gain too much benefit from this AoE skill right here. So she's going to really underperform in the clan boss, and that's why, very importantly, to just kind of learn what roles the champions that you build to level 60 are going to end up being the best at. Now, I said this is why I really like to recommend certain champions like Kale as great champions to take to level 60 first, because Kale, while he might not be the absolute best at any one particular role, he's going to be pretty darn good at filling several roles at once. He has his AoE skill here on a 3-turn cooldown, which also fills the turn meter when you kill monsters. He has attacks 4 times at random, great for the clan boss. Poison here, 2 fantastic skills is going to make him great for a campaign farmer, very good for the clan boss, and honestly even decent at dungeons. So the fact that he can do multiple things fairly well is going to make him a really good first champion to take to level 60, because then you don't have to worry about that problem that I used with Nizana, where you have a champion that you just built to level 60 that's only going to be good at one specific role, and then when you try taking them to something else, you realize that they're just not going to be good at whatever that secondary role is. Kale is going to be good at several things, which is why I recommend him as one of the first champions that you might want to consider taking to level 60, unlike a champion like Nizana, which is going to be really good for things like the Spider, but not going to be good as one of your first level 60s, because she's not going to be the absolute best at filling multiple roles. I guess she could be okay at campaign farming as well, but you know, for something like the clan boss, she is absolutely going to underperform there tremendously. And then finally, the last thing is going to be a very simple one, but very important, is just having the improper masteries. Now, this is going to make a difference. It might not be the absolute biggest difference. Masteries definitely give you a fairly decent bit of power for your champions, especially when it comes to things like the clan boss, or if you're doing dungeons where the bosses have a lot of HP because of the Giant Slayer War Master, but it's still going to be power that you might be missing out on if you don't have the masteries properly set up on your champions. Now, funny enough, I actually still haven't gotten around to redoing the masteries on some of my champions that I did earlier on. I don't know why. For some reason, I just haven't done it yet. I haven't had the time. I've been too busy, but you definitely want to go through and just kind of figure out what the best masteries are going to be for the champion and what role they are going to be filling. Like, I know my Juliana has really good masteries. I spent the time to actually go through and learn what the best masteries are going to be. Now, every champion is going to be a bit different. Not every champion is going to follow the same masteries, so this is something that you either have to look up a guide on, and every champion is going to have a different set of masteries that are going to be the best for them, or it's something that you have to figure out for yourself, because maybe you want to use your champion a little bit differently than the role that they might be intended for. It's going to kind of depend, but either way, definitely take the time to learn what the best masteries are, because if you end up picking bad masteries, you get 1 reset per champion for free, but any extra resets are indeed going to cost 150 gems. So definitely not something that you want to intentionally pick bad masteries. It's going to cost you to reset them. And also, a little warning about the guides is, sure, you can absolutely follow a guide for masteries when it comes to champions. Definitely going to be a great choice if you are a newer player, but just be warned that sometimes some masteries that certain guides offer as the best choice, maybe they're not going to be the best choice for what you are looking for. So as you become more experienced in the game and you learn more and more, you're going to realize that you are not going to need to stick to things like mastery guides as much, because you'll kind of just learn what the champion does naturally just by playing the game, and then you'll be able to kind of pick on your own what you feel are going to be the best masteries. So neither of them are bad choices, but just a little bit of a warning out there. Don't blindly follow guides thinking they are 100% right when it comes to masteries. Most of them are pretty accurate, but sometimes some of the choices, I know that for like Juliana as an example, I ended up making a couple different choices differently than what I ended up seeing on a few different guides. So thought that I would throw that in there just at the end. That's going to be a list of things that might make your champions at level 60 seem weaker than they should be, so I'm really hoping that this video helps out. I threw a lot of info at you guys, so I'm going to leave it here. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you guys did enjoy this video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks again everyone for 20,500 subscribers. If you want to help out, take a quick quarter of a second or so to toss a like on the video. That means a whole bunch, so thank you to everyone who does that. And of course, there should be some more videos, guides, all that fun stuff, Raid Shadow Legends related, popping up on the screen right about now. So feel free to check it out. Tons of Raid Shadow Legends videos on the channel. If not, have a fantastic day, everyone. And until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild. signing out.